Hello friends, so today Nilap is again with us. Previous week we have done the part one of this session. In this session we are going to discuss about a little bit situational or behavioral kind of interview questions which are asked in real interviews in Big Four consulting firm. And all these questions we gathered from our viewers and we got from various different sources. So thanks a lot Nilap joining us again today.
Um, Thank you, Shanand, for making me again nervous.
Okay, so friends, it's going to be a series, and this is part one, and we have, I guess, part three, four, five. So let's see how it going to be. So Nilab, shall we start with our very first question for today?
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, why user stories not simply estimated in man hours? Nilab, without wasting time, yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Sunand. Okay, so as Sunand has explained, friends, that this is one of the obvious questions uh, for any Master interview, regardless of the stature of the company. So it's quite important to understand that why this question is important, and secondly, the approach to this question is very important. So the approach is going to be the decider. So before I start sharing my views and knowledge, I again welcome you all and thank you, Sunand, for giving me the second opportunity to share my knowledge and experience. So thank you. Namaskar. Okay, so let's start. So the question is, it's a very straightforward question. Why aren't user stories simply always estimated in man hours? So it's just not a question. It's a scenario, and I'm sure 99 out of 100 Scrum Masters will face this or will be facing this either internally any project or with any of the clients, because and this scenario creates a huge amount of conflict also, which I can definitely share or say tell from my experience. So how to address it? So the basic uh, idea comes from the thorough knowledge or understanding of estimation techniques or estimation as a whole. So let me start that it's always okay to use man hours instead of story points when the team and the organization can deal with it. So I'm saying that the organization has to also be ready to take the calculation or estimation in man hours. In the contrary, some organizations will fall back into waterfall planning when work is estimated in hours, and I'll explain it how it happens. So when an organization has taken a pledge to transform itself or transform a project or a program into full-fledged agile, so they should think from all aspects that anything out of our culture or anything out of our say very rudimentary processes or legacy systems we are adopting, which will be a showstopper in agile implementation. So they should take an account of that, and agile coaches play a very vital role. And uh, typical watchdogs like Scrum Masters or senior Scrum Masters can always highlight the anti-patterns and then sort it out. So this particular estimation and what is not possible, what is possible is one of the anti-patterns. Okay, so let's concentrate on the statement that how organization normally falls back into a waterfall planning adopting estimation in man hours. So before again I start explaining this, I would like to say that the key belief of agile estimation and planning is that we estimate size, uh, but derive at duration. we exactly don't rush into calculating duration of the work. First, we estimate size, the volume, or how big is the project. Then from there, we derive duration and then calculate the schedule or reach at the schedule, you can say. Suppose all the user stories are estimated in story points. Let us just take the method of induction as we everybody must be remembering that we have proved that say pi is an irrational number or say rational number, and we have taken the way of method of induction. So let's start on that manner. Let's suppose all the user stories are estimated in story points, and the sum of all story points estimated of all the desired features, we come up with a total size estimate. That means it gives a consolidated figure. That consolidated figure signifies or talks about the size of the project, how big is the project. So now, if we know the team's velocity by some of our logs or historical data, or even if we have targeted a team velocity, like we know that sprint planning can be velocity driven, can be commitment driven. So if we have a targeted team velocity, or if we know a team velocity, we can divide the size of the project by velocity to arrive at an estimated number of iterations. That means the division or the result of this division gives the number of sprints that will take to fulfill this project. So then eventually we can turn this duration into a schedule by mapping into a calendar, and this is what we do normally in the release planning meeting. So uh, now I'm making it very simple. I have not mentioned about the man hours or calculating into man hours. I just mentioned that how story points make our life easier to derive a targeted date, or to make one of the agile planning meetings very simpler, that is the release planning meeting, and we can just broadcast it to the stakeholders. Okay, now the second thing, as we all know that agile teams include members from all disciplines necessary to build a product or a feature or something new, including those teams have members like programmers, testers, product owners, business analysts, UI designers, and so on. So that's why we call it a cross-functional team. So I'm not going here to explain what a cross-functional team is, but we know this term, cross-functional team. So when we estimate in man hours inside a cross-functional team, where there are these many roles or these many various types of roles, it's difficult to associate a single estimate with each user story. That means estimating a user story will take 8 BA man hours, or 16 programmer man hours, or 8 tester man hours, or say 5 DevOps engineer man hours. We don't know. Or if we do that, it gives this kind of a graph or a data, which eventually leads to a waterfallish graph. It also psychologically bends the team to do so. That okay, this particular story has these various dimensional man hours, and with depending on the skill sets. So definitely we will be doing it accordingly, which nothing is but a waterfall. So so that means we are bringing a waterfall planning inside agile implementation by estimating into man hours. On the other hand, story point estimate is just a single number that represents all of the work for the whole team. When we estimate by whatever way, by planning poker or whatever, by story points, we assign a number to a story. That number, we all know, represents the whole lot of work for that particular story for the whole team. That does not segregate as per the skill sets of the members of the team. Hence, story points are a pure measure of size. Third, in a software project, ideal time differs from elapsed time. We all know that because of natural overheads. We estimate every day. That means on a given day, in addition to working on the planned activities, a team member, be it a developer, be it a tester, say be it a UX designer, may spend time answering calls, writing emails, making a support call, you know, say sanitizing the environment, interviewing a candidate, attend a management meeting, so on. So which always have to account for. So that means whenever we are intending to measure the estimate of the man hours, we have to take care of the idle time and the elapsed time. So this is one of the hurdles for estimation into man hours. Next, story point estimation do not decay with time. Means, say a budding programmer has joined a team with his hunger for knowledge, with his increasing knowledge. Every day, a budding programmer, develops the level of knowledge he has. So now he is attending a estimation meeting or a sprint planning meeting, and he gives a number. So that means definitely he will take quite say X amount of man hours to develop an application. Now the same programmer, say after a couple of months or a quarter, has been literally trained and has been literally evolved to a say seasoned programmer, will definitely take less man hours to develop the same application. So these kind of complexities are there. That means the same application for the same guy or the same number, say same member, will decay. Whereas the story point will not decay. We all know that when things are constant, the nature of the work, the complexity of the work, and the worker. So story point estimation do not decay with time. Next, man hours are real. Story points are abstract. And this relativeness gives us an upper hand to compare, to literally set a benchmark on the, say, complexity or the size of that particular work from another. It eradicates the productivity comparison, which is ideal for every team's health. Like we are estimating in, say, man hours, which are real, which are, say, like fact, say, like I have two stories and I have estimated with, say, 5 plus 5, 10 man hours. Whereas, say, I have another fellow team member who has same kind of a story and he has estimated it to say 6 hours. So there comes a comparison. There comes a comparison of the productivity, which normally inside the team may not get discussed or highlighted, but people outside the team or the people who are almost accountable for the results take a note of that. So normally this is not ideal for any team. So we should always think of the particular amount of work, not exactly how long a person will take to finish the work. Next, estimating in story points is faster. When we sit inside say sprint planning meeting, before we collate the stories or we do a backlog refinement, we have decided on the stories, the DOR is ready. Normally, we do a very high level design discussion that how to achieve this. So, and we do regardless of any kind of estimation. So while estimating in man hours, teams have a tendency to take the design discussions a little deeper than normally teams estimating in story points. The difference is presumably because when estimating in man hours, it is more tempting to think about the individual tasks necessary to develop a story or say write the programming or whatever, and then to think in terms of the size of the story. So it's very human psychology again. I mentioned about this human psychology in my first session. Again, I'm mentioning is that it's the temptation, or say the tendency to say segregate and think about the tasks I or he or she will do, and then calculate the man hours rather than exactly slicing the story into various facets of working. So when people do that, they spend more time. So the estimation takes more hours, or say the meeting gets elongated or stretched. So these are the say what should I say, comparison, or say apple to apple comparison between story point estimation and man hour estimation. And as I said from the beginning, that it's okay to use man hours instead of points, and the team and the organization can deal with. Normally, in a vendor client setup, in IT service, this is very much important for the billing purpose. But how to calibrate the uh, story points into man hours? There are processes, that there are ways in PMOs to calibrate into man hours and then show it to the clients. But so far, completing the work and radiating the various information radiators to the stakeholders is concerned, story point estimation is the best way. Over to you, Sunan.
Nila, for that answer. Okay, let's move on to the second question. And the second question is more on a stakeholder management. So the question is, your stakeholders keep coming back to you once in a while, and then they say, I'm not sure what you guys are working on, what your team as a team building. So why are they even working on these features? So did someone ask for them? So it means your stakeholder is a little bit clueless. So what could you do to fix that? And what could be the problem statement over here, Nila?
Thank you, Sunan. Okay, this is again, this is a typical scenario in uh, any of the projects, you name it. So the problem statement here is communication and the clarity on the, say, PBI, clarity on the PBIs rather. PBI stands for product backlog item. So when this type of situation comes, that means there is nothing to panic here. And normally, I just want to say that not normally what happens, that Scrum Masters normally get into their shell, and they just, and means what is exactly needed, they don't do it. So in that case, situation aggravates, and things go from green to red. So in this scenario, the question uh, directly leads to two things. One is communication. Second is product backlog refinement, because the product backlog item normally gets ready in the product backlog refinement meetings, or say sessions, or say ceremonies, whatever you name it. So before I start and explain about how to overcome this scenario, I'd like to say that in today's agility is also maturing, is evolving. When I started, you know, being an agile practitioner, when I started teaching agile, uh, there were not much matrices. We didn't talk about matrices. We didn't talk about, other than the velocity and the uh, burn down. We didn't talk about the so many things nowadays we are now doing, and thanks to various tools like Zira and Rally, so which are also helping us to give various dashboards and various information radiators. So having said this, uh, I would say that organizations, or say programs, are investing a lot in various reporting dashboards or getting key matrices. There are various plugins of various tools. which are helping us to get down to these dashboards. So before I answer it, I would like to say that please adopt to that habit. Means get down to the tools or tools engineers or the vendors, understand how many or what kind of dashboards the tools can produce, and how we can give a very detailed and clarified picture to the stakeholders. Giving stakeholders access to these type of dashboards allows them to quickly glance over important matrices and data, which helps to better understand the teams and teams efforts, and normally the project or its goal status. So please do that. I would like to request all the Scrum Masters, existing Scrum Masters, or who are thinking of a switch, or who are trying to be a future Scrum Master, that please go back to the organization or the management and talk about dashboards, talk about matrices, so that the stakeholders will always be informed. Business can always use dashboards to measure the team's performance in one location, helping keep everyone on the same page and important tasks aligned. So this is the very basic thing. If we keep on doing it, normally this type of situations never arise. But still, if this type of situations come, there's nothing to panic. As I said, that the question directly comes from two things, that is proper communication, product backlog refinement. So how to just refine it or course correct it. So now going to more depth, as we know that the product backlog item can be expressed as a just a feature description, means the story itself is nothing but a feature description from the user point of view. And in this scenario, the features have some issues because the stakeholders are human beings, and when they keep on coming and tell you that what are you doing exactly, so either they don't understand the features, or they are not fully qualified. Sorry, I beg your pardon. They are not fully aware about the services these features are rendering, or the features have some issues which they are not doing, which they're supposed to do. So according to the stakeholders, the features have some issues which eventually can be tuned in, and where to tune in, that is nothing but the backlog refinement session. So here communication and understanding of the problem may have gone wrong. That means the stakeholders have to be appraised thoroughly. So which pertains to transition from product vision planning to product roadmap planning. That means, as I said, that the communication and understanding of the problem may have gone wrong. When I'm talking about the problem pertaining to the product, or understanding the product features, or understanding the product evolution, how the product will evolve, has somewhere gone wrong. The communication has gone wrong, not the product. So, and where it has gone wrong, that takes us back to the 5 levels of agile planning. That is transitioning from the product vision planning to the product roadmap planning. When the product vision planning is done and we are going to the product roadmap planning, where we will plan how to evolve the product so that the vision can be achieved. So during that transition, some communication has gone wrong. That is why the stakeholders are not aware, and they keep on knocking your door. So having this, the Scrum Master must facilitate a meeting where the product owners should communicate to the stakeholders transparently and find out what they want and what they don't know. And same should be discussed in the ceremonies like sprint planning. Okay, here I just want to say that you have to invite the Scrum Masters have to invite the stakeholders to the sprint planning meeting and make sure that they attend it. The product backlog items should be understood properly by the team, and the product backlog items must be enriched with new details. So now I'm talking about one ceremony, or say one meeting, or say one atmosphere where the Scrum Master will facilitate and bring the product owner and bring the stakeholder and make a proper handshaking. At the same time, you also should ensure through a meeting or through some collaboration calls or through exactly one-to-one calls that the PPIs must be enriched to new details, and the enrichment should be done by the team members along with the product owner. So now we have a session or we have a ceremony for this that is called the backlog refinement session. So we have to understand that the backlog refinement session is nothing but a collaborative process. Items are discovered and described, prioritized, decomposed, and refined by the entire Scrum team along the product owner inside the backlog refinement session. I again repeat, items are discovered, described, prioritized, decomposed, and refined by the entire Scrum team along with the product owner in the backlog refinement meeting. The backlog refinement meeting should not be a one-man show. The Scrum Master has to ensure there is an active involvement through questions, cross questions, or say any type of obvious questions, lame questions, bad questions, good questions, sessions, whiteboard sessions, whiteboard descriptions from the team to the product owner, and product owner should also take it very positively and give the proper answers or clarifications to the team and take the feedbacks also. So now we have come across, we discussed a session with the stakeholders, taking the product owner, we discussed about the backlog refinement session. Now the right thing or the final thing. At the end of the sprint, during the sprint review meeting, those have to be vividly inspected and adapted, which is being built. Means here also in the sprint review meeting, the stakeholders have to be invited and they should be asked to vividly inspect that what has been done and give their feedback then and there itself inside the sprint review meeting. In the sprint review meeting, as I said, the stakeholders must be invited, they must validate, and they must give their say or put their share about the PSIs. PSIs means potentially shippable items. The sprint review should be conducted in a bidirectional information flow manner. Definitely the team showcases what they have done, and when they have done something, what was the basis, what was the input, based on they have developed something, they should communicate, and the stakeholders also should communicate what they have understood, or they also should communicate what they have not understood. Okay, so there should not be any assumption. The Scrum Master must ensure there are no assumptions going out from the sprint review meeting. Now, last but not the least, for which the product owner should take help from the Scrum Master, that is, the Scrum team has to get synced on the product enrichment process. The people who are not in the Scrum team, they have also have to get sync on the development efforts the team is giving. So that means the Scrum team or the Scrum team members have to get involved with the BAs and the product owner during the discovery session, and post the development, the people who are not in the Scrum team, mostly they are the stakeholders, get to sync on the development effort and help and guide its direction. So if we do these three things, mostly in this entire, this is a diagnosis. Normally, I can understand this is as if we have got a disease and we have got a, a, a blend of medicines, combination of antibiotics, some blood thinners, and blah 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 blah. So this is a diagnosis. So we have one extra session which I talked about, that the product owner and the stakeholder session, where the product owner will communicate to the stakeholders transparently and find out what they want. Second is the collaborative backlog refinement session. Third is the sprint review, where the stakeholders must be invited and their validation must be solicited. Fourth is, of course, an ongoing thing. It should not stop. It should not be there just because the scenario is there. It should be always be there coherently. That is the involvement of the Scrum team from the discovery phase, and the involvement of the non-Scrum team in understanding or to get in sync on the development efforts. So uh, there lies the solution.
The detailed answer. I'm sure whoever is going to watch this, they will take a few good pointers from your answer. So yeah, thanks a lot, Nila, for this session. And yeah, friends, so that's all for today's session. We have covered 2 questions today, and there are many more questions which we have jotted down, which we are going to cover in next week. So thanks, Nila, for that. And friends, please subscribe, like, and share this knowledge with your other friends, colleague on LinkedIn. So yeah, that's all for today, folks. So thank you, and have a nice day. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Nila.
you all.